Hi, good morning. I'm Kristin Omdahl and welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode, I think, 327, somewhere in that range. Anyway, if you're joining me live, please say hello and let me know what you're crafting on this morning. If you have any questions for me, please also feel welcome to ask. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't, we'll look into it. Hi, Judy. Thanks for joining live. Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining live. Glad to see you guys here. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hi, Christy. Thanks for joining live. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Freezaby. Hi, Sherry. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Edna. So, things didn't go to plan this morning. Good morning, Melissa. Hi, Lisa. When do things go to plan, right? Hi, Grace. Hi, Brenda. So we were headed out the door and Marlon became ill, so we didn't leave. And good morning, Freezaby and Tamaya, I think. Nikki, Christine, thanks for joining live. So had to make sure he was okay and get him tucked in back in bed, so there was no time to get to the beach at that point. So grabbed a few things that I've been working on over the weekend to do a quick show and tell here in my backyard instead. It's freezing here. We had a really stormy and extremely rainy weekend, and it's very damp out here, but stopped raining and it's about 45 degrees, so still chilly for our Florida blood. Hi, Denise. Hi, Joe. Hi, Judy. Thanks for joining live, everybody. Having trouble seeing the camera this morning. I wanted to get it far enough away that I could show you some show and tell stuff, but now I'm having a hard time reading it. Yeah, Brenda, it is extra pretty. Once we get rain, our colors really just get so much more saturated. So all of the flowers get brighter, all of the leaves get greener. It's really one of my favorite times in a tropical, actually I think this is the case anywhere. I really love the way the colors pop right after a rainstorm. Wait and see if anybody has any specific questions. Would love to see what anybody's working on this morning. Good morning, Naomi. Thanks for joining live. Hi, Barbara. Well, looks like somebody else is sick too. Feel better soon. Karen's working on a knit along. That's nice. Sherry's working on her Leah capelet. Wonderful. Hi, Judy from Philly. Thanks for joining live. Mars making a cowl with my sock yarn. Wonderful. Lisa wants to know if she can make her shrug longer. Not sure what shrug you're working on, but if you are working on the Desna or Jillian shrug, because it's worked side to side, if you want it to be longer, you would have to increase the width of your rectangle. Working on a Tunisian dragon tail. Okay, I think that's a shawl maybe. Someone's working on the Tender Chloe vest. Wonderful. Sherry's working on her Leah capelet. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yes, okay, Lisa's on the right track. Good. Jane's lining her Shangri-La bag. Wonderful. Oh, Barbara wanted the same modification ideas for her shrug. Good. Well, see, that's the whole point of doing question and answers in a community setting like this, is that 9 times out of 10, any question someone has, someone else has the same question, so that's great. Christine's working on a crochet tunic, I think. I'm trying to read them. For some reason, it's not seeing it as well as I thought. So anyway, glad to see everybody had a crafty weekend. I also had a crafty weekend. Great, actually, for all of the rain we had. We were stuck indoors all weekend. So I worked a lot more on some drawings for Tapestry Crochet. So I can quickly show you some of those. We'll just run right through these. Am I showing them right way or wrong? I'm showing them wrong way because I drew on Sharpies. I drew on graph paper with Sharpies, so really did saturate the paper. So here's a couple of ideas. This one reminds me a lot of brickwork. If you could see it up close, you'd see that they are offset bricks, but I really love the way that one turned out. This is in 5 colors. I love the curved lines that I got out of these. This is by adjusting the width and length of each of the color sections. Really excited about that. This is a more simple version of that. I think this is 5 colors as well. This one would be 3 colors, 2 colors for the lozenges or diamonds, and then a 3rd color for the background. On some of these, I just didn't color in the background because I figure once I convert it to the computer, everywhere that's white on this and this will be an extra color. I think I showed you this one last week, and I think I showed you this one last week. Here's another new one. I like this one a lot too. I like how the dotted lines end up being a pattern in between the solid pattern. And then a couple of these didn't get finished because I like where I'm going with them, but I don't like how they're working. So these are not keepers, but there's still ideas that need to be worked out in my brain. So there's 3 piles. There's the keepers, there's the garbage ones, and then there's the ones that are like, I like that idea, but it's not solidified yet. These kept me pretty busy all week, and you'd be amazed at how long it takes to actually color in that many squares. Let me show you. This is graph paper. So you can see I had to color in each one of those teeny tiny little squares on all of these papers. And that's actually a lot more work than you might realize. Like this one was a lot of fun to do, but look at all the little colored in circles or squares. And then you come back here and it's just an amazing design, but you can see how many different colors are actually in there. Good morning, Healing Spring. Thanks for joining live. So then at the end of all this, I thought I better check one out and make sure I like the way it looks in yarn before I keep going. So I can't remember if I started this one or this one. I think I might have ended up doing a combination of the two. And I'll show you what I have done so far. I'm using Be So Baby yarn in colors Platinum and Cherry. And I've got the beginning done here. And I'm not super impressed with it, so I think I might be starting over. This is my 3rd attempt at it. On each one I've learned something different. So what I don't like is how a single crochet is making a solid line on this side, but it's making like a dotted line on this side. So I think it actually needs to be more than 1 single crochet. It needs to be 2. So I'll show you. That's why I need to combine these 2 graphs. This one I did single crochets for the diamonds, and this one I did sets of 2 single crochets for the diamonds. So I think this will actually make a more beautiful pattern. Now whether I do that interior design or this interior design or this one or a combination of any of those 3, I think the fundamentals of it is that these 2 double crochet or 2 single crochet sections are going to actually make more solid lines. So I think there will be a time and a place for dotted lines, but not in this pattern because I want both sides of that diamond to be symmetrical. So that's why I'll be starting this one over again. So I thought I'd at least share that with you. I think the design process is interesting, and I think some of you find it interesting too. And, also just to point out that after all of this work, it can still not work right. You still have to go back to the drawing board. And like I said, that was my 2nd attempt at it. And so it will end up taking them at least 3 attempts total to get it right. And that's okay because that is part of the design process. And so just wanted to share that with you. Teresa, am I making a bag? Yes, I think this one's going to be a bag. Although I think I was limiting the design possibilities by making it a bag from the get-go. So I think on my 3rd attempt, I'm just going to make a round for the beginning instead of starting with the base, because that way when it's finished I can show you how to convert it to a cowl, a hat, or a bag, because you could actually do any one of those three things if you don't start with the base. So third attempt is going to be just the tube, so that when the tube is done, we can talk about the different ways that you can decide at the end which way you want to go with it. So I think it'll be, again, another opportunity for more education by not committing to a type of project from the beginning. You know, once you put 30 hours into something, or 20, or whatever it ends up being, you may change your mind, right? So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to explain all of those different things you can do at the end. Yeah, they are going to be fun to see made up. Absolutely, Teresa. So I've got another update and show and tell to show you. You remember me knitting this last week. So it's funny because you know how when you move, you don't always find everything right away. And I've done a really great job of finding most things. There's only a list of things that I can't find since we moved. And this weekend, I realized that I can't find my blocking wires. And when you're blocking rectangular pieces of fabric like this, it is really helpful to have blocking wires so that you can get a nice straight edge on all four edges of your rectangle or square or anything that has straight edges. The only time I think it's helpful to just do manually pinning is when you want a scalloped edge. Then it's fine. But I couldn't find my blocking wires, and I have two pieces. I'll show you this up close so you can see what I actually did was take both pieces of the lace and put one on top of the other before blocking. And you may say, oh, well, why would you do that? Then it will take forever to dry. And that would be true if it was a thick fabric, but because it's a lacy fabric, it seriously only took a tiny bit longer to dry. And that way, blocking them together, I knew that no matter how crappy my pinning job was, they'd still be symmetrical. And some of this, I will still be able to block some of this edge that I don't think is straight enough. I will be able to block out with a steam iron still, and I still have to sew several of these edges together. So between sewing and steam blocking, and then I'm going to be adding fringe, which will weigh down some of the sides. There'll be fringe along these short edges, so you're not even going to see those edges. One of these sides you'll see, and one of them's getting sewn together, or a couple of them are getting sewn together. So the sewn edges will be steam blocked out fine. The fringed edges you won't see at all. So there'll only be a few sections that need to be super smooth, and I'll be able to reblock this. Oh, we have a visitor. Hi, honey. This is Becker. So we'll be able to smooth out those edges with steam iron, or even reblocking, however I feel like doing it. But what was important to the assembly process at this point is making sure that they were symmetrical. Having blocking wires makes it really easy to keep things symmetrical, but you know what makes it even easier? Putting them on top of each other and blocking them together. This will make assembling two rectangles by far the easiest, because there's no way they aren't symmetrical now. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you're doing lace pieces that need to be blocked, don't even question yourself. Putting them on top of each other is perfectly fine for blocking and drying. Let's see if anybody has any questions. I think a few people like that idea. Good. Oh, somebody bought these blocking mats on my Amazon page. Yeah, aren't they great? Can you ever sew your knit and crochet in a sewing machine? You know, I would imagine that there are needles that you could use, but my biggest issue would be those teeth that come up from the bottom of the knitting machine, sewing machine. And I think someone that's a more experienced sewer than me might know of some different attachments that you could get so that those the feed dogs, is that what they're called, Grace? I would be afraid of those snagging your knitwear. So if there's an attachment that can cover those, if you can take them out or use something, I do believe you can sew on tissue paper. I have heard of that. I've heard of sewing on tissue paper and paper before. But I would find out what you could cover that bottom plate with, or what kind of attachment you could replace it with, because that right there is what would, oh, Chris is saying sandwich the knitwear between tissue paper. Yeah, that could possibly work. I would still be worried if you had any sort of texture to your knitting. But it's worth giving it a shot with a swatch. Oh, freezer paper. Yeah, freezer paper might work even better. And Judy machine sews the lining in purses, making sure that it's the lining that faces the feed dogs. Okay, yes. Okay, well, wonderful. So not only did someone's question get asked, those of us that also were curious about that got to learn from other people who did have answers. So thank you for all of that. What a great way to come full circle on a question. We all learned a lot. Thank you. Yeah, I figured there was ways to do it because I know people do do it. I just don't have any personal experience with my sewing machine and knitwear. But now that opens up a whole new world of opportunity. So thank you. I love all those ideas. I'm still going to hand sew this though. There's just long pieces, and I actually don't have issues with sewing hand knits. I feel like I'm pretty good at it at this point. And the difference between being good at something and not is getting the right tutorials and practice, right? Trying to read as I go here. Yeah, you could crochet these together too, Grace. Absolutely. Barbara, you could absolutely crochet these together. Absolutely. My issue with that as a designer is that when I am making knitting patterns, if I offer crochet techniques at all within a knitting pattern, it can make some people upset. So it's very important that I make directions that are 100% knit or 100% not crochet within a knitting pattern, because there is so much tension between the two crafts, which is strange because to even say that, I can add sewing to a knitting project, but I can't add crochet to it without making people upset. It's bizarre because you'd think that there would be the same adversity between sewing and knitting, but no, it's just between knitting and crochet. You, unless it's specifically geared towards doing both, which some people like, most of the time it causes more problems than it's worth to add crochet techniques to a knitting pattern. Anyway, that's my opinion after 15 years of writing patterns. But yes, if you would rather crochet things together instead of sewing them together, absolutely. And in fact, it has a shorter learning curve. It is easier to do in some ways. The only drawback from sewing, from crocheting to Karen, I'll answer that in a second. The only drawback to a crochet seam instead of a knit or sewn one is that it will add a little bit of bulk. Karen made a point that it is getting more popular to combine knitting and crochet within a pattern, and that is true if there are elements of the project that are knit and elements that are crocheted. But if the crochet element is only sewing them together, no, that is not as popular. I can't explain it, but all I can tell you is I've written over 600 patterns, and I've been designing patterns for 15 years, and I've come to understand what is expected most of the time. It is interesting, and it's the things that you learn along the way to make your life easier or make other people's lives easier. It is interesting, but Karen's right. It is definitely popular to have knit and crochet components within a pattern. People do seem to like that a lot. but not in the assembly. Beck, are you gonna come back and say hi? Look at this little cutie. Hi. You gonna keep me warm? It's chilly out here. Oh gosh, my phone didn't charge overnight. Look at that. I got a low battery warning and I thought I charged my phone. Brenda's noticed it at her yarn shop. Yeah, I don't understand. Don't understand it, but it's not my, I don't think it's my place to understand it. It's my place to just go with the flow. Melissa's making a dog collar that's knit and crochet. That's wonderful. Thanks, Healing Spring. He is a cutie. He's a sweetheart too. No, I think combining knitting and crochet is absolutely fun. I like combining lots of different crafts together. I think it's always fun to combine things. I think it would be fun to combine weaving, knitting, and crochet together. Or even combining macrame, crochet, knitting, and weaving and sewing together. I love it. I missed a question about a replacement for a cable needle. Did not see it, it was long. If you feel like leaving your question in the recorded comments, that would be wonderful. And I can answer it when I see it later. Oh yeah, knitting cast-ons with a crochet hook. Those are wonderful, yes. Yeah, that's a wonderful technique. I do believe I have a tutorial video on that on my YouTube channel. And if you go to my website, to my How to Knit page, I have all of those videos and descriptions for a bunch of techniques, including that one. Oh, crocheting edges on knitting is wonderful. Yes, Jane. I love doing that too. Karen made a music bag with weaving, knitting, and crochet. That's awesome. I think I started to read a funny comment, but I missed it. Something about crochet edging, and I don't remember. Yeah, I think it'd be great to make woven squares and then crochet edging around them and then join those. And then as you're making that crochet edging, you're actually making motifs that can then be joined as you go to other motifs. I think that would be a great way to combine weaving and crochet. There's a great, I mean, you could do that with fabric, crochet on some sort of fabric. I've often thought that taking washcloths, you know, just a regular terry cloth washcloth, and because they're already same size, they're already seamed, and you could crochet an edge around the washcloths and then crochet them together as a motif afghan. Freeze-a-bee edges knitting projects with crochet. Yeah, crochet edging is so much easier to learn than knit edging, unless you're doing perpendicular edging, which is where you would work an edging this way along the edge of a knitted project. To pick up and knit around this whole perimeter in knitting is far more difficult and requires a lot more expertise than crocheting around an edge. So I think that is one of the best ways to combine knitting and crochet, is to take your knitted pieces and add crochet edging instead of a knitted edge. That's a wonderful idea, really wonderful. And you can, I mean, my book, The Finer Edge, which is a crochet book all about crochet edging. People use that to edge all sorts of things, from quilting and sewn projects and fabric and knitting and weaving. I've seen people take all of my edgings from that book and apply them to many other crafts and store-bought projects. Yes, Brenda, it's also faster. That's correct. Jane, that's your favorite book. Oh, yay, thank you. It's Sherry's favorite book too. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. I'm so glad to hear that. I love that book too. Uh-oh, we have another visitor. This is Bjorn. Hi, honey. Did you want to say hi? No, he doesn't want to say hi. It's funny, they want to say hi when I don't want them to. Like when like making videos, they want to show up. But now that I want them to say hi, nope. I love it. Thanks, Lisa. They are cute. They are from the same litter. They were litter mates, I guess is the correct term. I call them brothers. Hi, Danette. Thanks for joining live. And we adopted them after they were found homeless in a parking lot. Poor things. At 2 weeks old, they were found in a box in a McDonald's parking lot, starving at 2 weeks old. And a lady that I know who fosters kittens like that, she fostered them, and we adopted them after she fostered them. And they're 5 years old now. Marlon and I were discussing it last night, that if they are 5 years old now, that would they are actually 35 years old. So Marlon realized that he's the youngest one in the house. It was a conversation we had yesterday. What am I going to say? It's cute that he's worried about their lifespan, though. Oh, Brenda, yeah, absolutely. We were not looking to adopt two kittens, but when I was told that they were brothers from the same litter, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could have split them up. No way. Who's a good boy, huh? Does anybody have any other questions about the things that I showed today? Does anybody want to see anything a second time? Hi, Patty from Houston. Thanks for joining live. Yeah, it is sweet. It is sweet to keep them together. And they're so sweet to us. They're really good kitties. Honestly, I've never heard either one hiss. What else? Neither of them meow. They both make like a newborn kind of a cry. They don't meow. And they've never hissed in the 5 years that I've known them. They don't get mad. They don't bite. They're just sweet. I mean, they either want to cuddle or don't, but they're sweet all the time. Lisa loves all the tapestry I showed. I don't know which one was the first one. It's possible that the ones I'm working on. Do I have any tips or tricks for blocking? Yes, I've got lots of tips and tricks for blocking. Let's see. Well, first of all, use a good product on your fibers. So I would start, I prefer Wrapture, all natural delicate wash from Eucalan, but Eucalan is a family company that's been around, oh gosh, more than 25 years now, probably close to 30 years. And they make an amazing all natural no rinse delicate wash. So, you know, just like you treat your hair properly and you don't want to use garbage on your hair, you don't want to use garbage on your fibers either. Think about it in terms of how you want to condition and take care of a fiber. So it's really important that you don't use things that have chemicals in it or things that are going to break down your fibers. So using the right kind of a wash is really important for fiber. You want to use something that's delicate on the actual fiber itself and something that's not laden with a bunch of chemicals which will damage the dye or the fiber, and something that actually conditions the fiber so that it becomes softer. So you want to make sure that you're using something that is good for your fiber first of all. Then depending on what the fiber is made out of, you want to make sure that you are agitating or not agitating it properly. A yarn that is feltable, you don't want to do too much agitation with or use too hot of water because you'll actually felt it. And that's only important if you didn't want to felt something, right? So you want to be careful with untreated natural wool. If you don't want to felt it, you need to make sure that your water isn't too hot, that you don't agitate it too much, and that there aren't any shocking changes between hot and cold water. Just the shock from hot to cold and back and forth could also felt your fibers. So that's important to know. What else? Lukewarm water is your best bet. Nothing too hot or too cold. Another thing is when you're taking your project out of the water, you don't want to do any heavy wringing. You're better off pressing the water out. And one tip that I really enjoy for that is once I've pressed or squeezed a bunch of the water out of my project, I lay it into fresh dry towels, roll up those towels, not twist, roll the towels up, and then I put it on the floor and stand on it, and so that extra pressing it makes the towel absorb the water from the fiber, and it helps push some of the water out. The reason we don't wring hand knit or hand crochet items is because the actual stitch work is delicate, and just the act of wringing could damage your yarn, it could damage your stitch work. There's a handful of different things that could happen to that. So you want to make sure that you don't do any wringing. Brenda's used a salad spinner on small items. That's wonderful. This might surprise some of you, but if you put your projects in a lingerie bag, you can actually use the spin cycle on your washing machine too. As long as you get past the agitation stage and get past the rinsing stage, if you just set your washing machine to the spin cycle and you make sure that your knits or your crochet pieces are in lingerie bags so they can't get caught up in the piece in the middle, it'll do the same thing that a salad spinner will do, and it works wonderfully for getting the water out. It's really wonderful on a larger item that absorbs a lot more water. Lace pieces are pretty easy to press out between towels, but like a heavier sweater works really great in the spin cycle. I just make sure you put it in a lingerie bag first, and make sure you don't make the mistake of getting in the agitation cycle, because then you can make a mess. So if you're familiar enough with the settings on your washing machine, the spin cycle is amazing. Yeah, thanks moderators, good job. Couple more tips on blocking. Circulating air helps keep your things to dry quickly. So if you have an oscillating floor fan, if you have a ceiling fan, any sort of a fan will work really well for circulating the air and getting your thing to dry faster. Also, if you have just some sort of a cross breeze, like I'll show you right here. My porch has a screened corner, so obviously I would get lots of good cross breeze here. So actually where this piece is right now would get a lot of circulating air to be able to dry quickly. But if you're doing it indoors, a fan helps a lot for drying it quicker. All right, so what else? Also, I think it's better to weave in your loose ends before you block, because if your yarn happens to be something that frays easily, it is a lot harder to weave in your ends after the blocking process. So whenever possible, I like to weave in my ends before blocking. This piece is an exception because I knew that these ends weren't going to fray too much, and I wanted to keep some tails for doing some of the sewing because this is going to be assembled. So wanted to point that out. But great question. Hopefully I gave you some tips and tricks, and that was just off the cuff. I'm sure I have a lot more, and we could dive into that even further on another video. But if nobody has any other questions, I think we will end the podcast today since we've already gone over a little bit. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes with me. I hope you enjoyed my tips and tricks, my show and tell, chatting with me and everyone else here. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every